I'm Mike Hebert, owner of Cantex Roofing and Construction. Every day is game day, and we'll get it right when it comes to your roofing, construction, windows, and mirrors. Call Cantex Roofing and Construction today. Together, we are one serving you.
It's every Red Raiders' favorite podcast. This is the Tech Talk Podcast from Double T 97.3, presented by Cantex Roofing and Construction.
Hi, how are you? Good afternoon. How you going? Happy Friday. It's Tech Talk on Double T 97.3 and Double T 97.3.com with Dr. Mike Gustafson and Clint Scott. I'm Aaron Dickens. We're joining you today until 6 o'clock. We will have coverage of the Pac-12 championship game coming up at that time here on Double T 97.3. There must be some kind of oversight or typo on the big board because I don't see coverage of the Conference USA championship game up there.
We actually only had that, and I personally, just to make you angry, I had one wish granted to me at the station, and I said, do not put that game on.
I should have asked for more wishes. We'll have coverage of the Lady Raiders as they take on Houston Christian on both 107.7 Yes FM and 100.7 The Score. That coverage starts at 5:30, tip-off at 6. But, two conference championship games tonight.
Woot, 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 woot. And, that Pac-12 one has some,
Do you have a
some
name
juice
for that, Gus?
That little
like, is that like like a very excited owl?
Yeah.
From Barcelona.
It might be like 1998. You've got mail or something like that too.
I thought that was like your war horn, like Gus is riding onto the
Let me see
battlefield.
your war face.
Woot, woot. I think. We've got like this Pac-12 game tonight. We'll have. Playoff implications.
Sure.
It's been sort of a punchline. Even when it's been a good game, it's been sort of a punchline because somebody tweets a picture of the stands with 18,000 people in it. So I don't know if it'll be well attended or not. Couldn't even tell you where it's being played, to be honest with you. Is it in Vegas?
It is in Vegas.
Okay.
Yeah. Allegiant Stadium.
Yeah. But primetime game. I mean, if Washington wins, they're in.
Don't you kind of feel like it's a win and you're in for either team?
Maybe.
I mean, Oregon is number 5 in the rankings. Their only loss is to Washington, so it's not
that's true.
a terrible loss. And if they win this game, then they'll have a win over, at this point, the third-ranked team in the country.
And if you're Washington, you're going, wait, we split with that team. How do you pick one or the other? You lost the most recent version of it, and it's
very true.
Reminder number 67 that we are just primed and ready for this 12-team tournament, this 12-team playoff.
And looking at Washington, right? I mean, they have already had a win over Oregon. Right, currently ranked 5 in the playoff rankings. They have a win early on against Arizona that we probably didn't appreciate enough at the time. Arizona's ranked 15th in the latest college football playoff rankings. Now, obviously, the USC and Utah wins don't mean as much, but Oregon State is still a bit of a quality win there, although that's on both teams' schedules, obviously. So maybe that's the difference.
Yeah. Well, I think I bet you there's some recency bias going into this meeting on Saturday night or Sunday for that committee. Like I wouldn't, I just wouldn't want to play well tomorrow. Florida State facing the possibility, officially their backup quarterback, their number 2 QB, is a game time decision tomorrow. So they could be playing with their Jake Strong, their number 3, and even if they eke out a win there, is the committee going to go, hey, but we're trying to pick the best 4 teams, not the most deserving 4 teams. What does that do to them? But I think it's hard to imagine this field of 4 without that Florida State team being a noteworthy consideration, especially if they win.
I wonder, too, how much the 12-team playoff starting next year factors into this, right? Because if you're in that room, obviously, for the most part, you're hoping for chalk this weekend just to kind of take all the pressure off to where it's just kind of a layup. But I wonder how much interest there is, even if it's unspoken, of let's not make some kind of big controversial, bunch of waves here and just kind of go with the most defensible, even if it doesn't necessarily mean the 4 best teams. So, for example, if Florida State ekes out a win over Louisville, it doesn't look very impressive, but still finishes off the undefeated season, hey, you're in. Like, you would have been in next year as an automatic team. You went 13-0. Here's a spot. On the other hand, right, maybe there's less pressure to worry about, or less concern about, well, we don't want to set any precedents because it's all over after this year.
Yeah, true.
Right? Maybe they just kind of YOLO it and go, well, hey, this is the 4 best teams, and sorry we don't like it, and next year there will be some automatic qualifiers.
This won't happen again. Yeah. Tough deal. Because I would venture to say a team that could pull off a win, and I'm playing out the hypothetical here, but if a team's good enough to win their conference with their number 3 quarterback on the field, like, that's a pretty dang good club.
Yeah, I agree.
But it really will be fascinating to watch these next 24, not quite 36 hours of football play out, and then
especially the Conference USA Championship game.
Well, I am legit excited for the I probably would say I'm more excited about that game than I maybe ever have been, because I think the New Mexico State story's cool. There is
it's
a Lubbock,
really cool.
Yeah, there's a Lubbock kid, actually a Texas Tech connection to that. The Jerry Kill story is very cool. Yeah, and we might, at least one of the bowl projections had us playing one of the teams in this thing. So
yeah, because New Mexico State is one of the most under-resourced, historically unsuccessful programs out there. And if they win tonight, that's 11 wins.
It's awesome.
Arguably the best season in their program's history, at least in the modern era.
Yeah, the modern era, sure.
That's what everybody plays for, man. Hope. Like, if New Mexico State can do it, UTEP can do it.
You bet. New Mexico, which is out
because they're right
down
the road.
Now. Yeah.
More Tech Talk next.
Woot, 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 woot.
The podcast that finishes your workday in a very Red Raider way. This is the Tech Talk Podcast from Double T 97.3, presented by Cantex Roofing and Construction.
Hi there, how you going? It's Tech Talk on Double T 97.3 and Double T 97.3.com with Gus and Clint. I'm Aaron. We're with you today from the First United Bank studio. Here until 6, we'll have coverage of the Pac-12 title game, the last ever Pac-12 championship game tonight. That coverage starts at 6 here on Double T 97.3. Kickoff at 7 from Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas, Nevada. Lady Raider coverage beginning at 5:30. Tip-off at 6. Tech versus Houston Christian. That coverage on both 100.7 The Score and 107.7 Yes FM. Couple of different bits of news, developments today. I don't know that anything is huge, or even, I don't know that most of it is that shocking, but Jerand Bradley has entered the transfer portal, or at least announced his intentions to enter the transfer portal. So that widely expected development has taken place. Anybody surprised? Anybody sad?
No. Well, I mean, the best version of him would love to have the best version of him here. But if he's been eyeing the field anyway. And I mean, it's hard. It's really hard to look at that receiver room and pine over someone leaving, which is not to say I want the whole thing to get gutted, but I mean, that room has underperformed as much as any.
Yeah.
And when I say room, I mean the group. How much of that's quarterback? I don't know. I mean, who knows? Don't care. But yeah, it's maybe it affects you a little bit in bowl game. Maybe it doesn't. I don't know. I mean, it'll be fascinating to see if 19 days off or whatever. I guess on the shortest end of it, about a 3-week time off for Morton's shoulder.
Mm-hmm.
How much that would matter. But if he's healthy and slinging it, and they go out and have an offensive performance, it's going to be a bit of an indictment, or not really an indictment, but a positive thing going forward for next year to go, yeah, we're going to be fine without those guys. But at what point are we looking at some league average receivers and saying, okay, I mean, hopefully we're bringing in better than league average. And I know we feel that way about Micah Hudson, but hopefully there are other league average replacements in that room or headed our way.
I wouldn't say that I'm upset or not like angry or whatever you want to call it that he's going into the portal. I'd say more disappointed, though, that it didn't work out. And we didn't ever get, like with what Gus is saying, we didn't get the Jerand Bradley that was getting the preseason hype and the Jerand Bradley you saw towards the end of last year. So I'm more not disappointed that he's leaving, but I'm definitely disappointed that it didn't work out. It felt like you never got everything out of him for whatever reason that it felt like you could have.
I'm curious what y'all's reaction is to this tidbit that came out today from Ben Golan of RedRaidersports.com. He's one of the I'd say one of the best tech reporters in this space, certainly from a recruiting standpoint and personnel standpoint. So this is not just some like random anonymous Twitter account or someone that just throws stuff to the wall. He shared today, after Bradley had announced his intentions of entering the portal, that Bradley actually entered the portal in the spring too. Obviously didn't go anywhere. I don't know what all happened in order to, get him back in the fold and happy, and we can speculate. I'm guessing it wasn't just like hey, here's a corner locker,
with a view.
But
it certainly doesn't brighten my outlook knowing that.
Like, does that? Because think about his season, right? All of our expectations for him, preseason, all Big 12, et cetera, and look at that through the prism of, well, he wanted to leave
right
in April or whatever it was, May.
It's been a long time ago on a way different scale, but there were times when I was coaching high school summer baseball, high school age kids, that there was just something in the wind with the kid, like this just isn't working out for him. He didn't want to be here anymore. He didn't want to put it, whatever. And or if he would get to the game and maybe be so adversely affected by something that really wasn't there in a way that you're going, that our thought was always, what's he hearing in the car on the way home? Of course, I was dealing with kids that may very well still have been riding home literally with mom in the car. But it, for Bradley, when you think about what we're talking about, that a guy that was in the portal, got out, somehow appeased a little bit, maybe wasn't fully appeased, or maybe had second thoughts or whatever, and then you match that with the performance this year, and it's hard to look at the performance in hindsight and go, yeah, okay, I could see where he had some other stuff going on in his head.
This on the Yates Flooring Center chat line. Somebody says, Bradley, softest player in the room. Someone else asks, can Kitley enter the transfer portal? Rolling eyes emoji. No, it's only for players. Somebody else says, so if they enter the portal, they stop practicing and playing now? Yes, essentially, effectively. I mean, I don't know specifically if there's like a rule that says that you must sever all ties. But the reality is that once you announce that you're leaving, you're done. Like they might let you use the weight room still, but in terms of part of the team and part of the program,
right?
Yeah, that's done.
Part of the team side of it. Probably still some academic services available or whatever as they prep for finals or something. But yeah, I'm with you there. I mean, there could possibly be some exceptions, but if you feel like a dude's not wanting to be a part of this anymore, then do you want that in the room? Like, wouldn't that just be the possibility of the cancer of the century being in the room?
Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. Somebody says this maybe Bradley didn't want Morton either. Well, I mean, did he want Jake Strong? Like what? I mean, it's not like there was just like a whole box store full of options. This from Bobby Hot Dogs. Aaron, did you see that Clint posted his most played Spotify tracks? I was expecting ICP to be in the top spot, but I'm really not surprised. And your top song was Ass Man by Billy Gunn. Is that really true?
No.
Oh.
No, but I appreciate the joke. So I was more of a Road Dogg fan between the pair, but
I can look at mine, I guess. At some point.
I don't use the Spotify, I guess. I don't know. I need to take advantage of that, I suppose. I've got it, but never really. I guess I need to cultivate. What do you call it? Curate. I was supposed to say cultivate a list. Curate a list. Is that what I need to do?
Yeah, let's get started.
Okay. You want to do that? I mean, we can spend 2.5 hours working on a playlist. Might be better than another question.
The Tech Talk Mixtape 2023.
Might be better than another question about our offense.
Hey, Morning Drive, I made you a mixtape.
We got to come up with something else to talk about.
More Tech Talk next.
The podcast put together with Red Raider fans in mind. This is the Tech Talk Podcast from Double T 97.3, presented by Cantex Roofing and Construction.
Hey there, how you going? It's Tech Talk on Double T 97.3 and DoubleT973.com with Gus and Clint. I'm Aaron. We're joining you today until 6 o'clock. We will have the Pac-12 title game coming up at that time. Kickoff at 7. From Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas, Nevada, Washington, and Oregon. Winner likely will go to the college football playoff. Lady Raider basketball coverage will start at 5:30 on 100.7 The Score and 107.7 Yes FM. Tech taking on Houston Christian tonight. Tip-off, at 6 from the USA. This on the Yates Flooring Center chat line from Duff in Houston. Hearing that Bradley spring portal news make me wonder why we didn't give Coy Aiken more of a shot. He actually played like he wants to be here. Well, I think he was injured.
He was hurt. Yeah, he missed camp.
Of the season.
Yeah, missed camp and missed the early first couple games. Mm-hmm. So yeah, and really this isn't an Aiken, or this wasn't an Aiken versus Bradley conversation. This was an Aiken versus the Fungi Sparkman side of the field, if I remember correctly. When Aiken got in, those two
was at their expense
shrunk. Yeah, exactly.
Somebody has this. What is going on with volleyball? 7 players in the portal.
Yeah, not a good look.
Yeah, I mean,
be lying if I could tell you all the inside heat on that. But I mean, we've seen the portal activity, just the tweets and the coverage of that over the last little bit, and not a ton of success with that program really since a couple years ago when they went to NCAA tournament. Mm-hmm. Bunch of assistants let go apparently early this past summer, and which is awful late, I would think. And we've talked about this. Sometimes you find out what you've got in terms of assistants if they all end up at Podunk Junior College or whatever. Mm-hmm. Apparently, a couple of these went to some fairly prominent Power 5 destinations, is my understanding. And so then you do kind of worry about that. If the whole staff spins off to group of 5 schools or junior colleges or whatever, you might go, well, what did we lose there? But apparently we lost some heat and like some heat and some coaching talent, and maybe that is reflected in some of those kids that came here based on a relationship with one of these assistants that was let go. All of this speculation, of course, I wouldn't know.
Yeah, I don't know how many. I mean, bottom line is I don't know any kind of insight into the volleyball program. I think that, excuse me, not a good look when you have 7 players and probably more coming in the portal after another poor season. I don't know if all of those were player initiated or if some of them were kind of processed. No clue. But I would guess that, volleyball recruiting is, one of those deals where if you sour some relationships with this club program or that club program or this high school or that high school, then you're, kind of hosed.
Problematic. Yeah.
So it'll be curious to kind of see how they fix that roster. I mean, I'm not bothered by it in a way that, like, I'm not worried about the ups and downs of that, right? Just being 100% real, cards on the table. But, certainly willing to call a spade there. This in the Yates Flooring Center chat line from Lindale Jeff. If anyone can remember what the "I'm a man, I'm 40" speech was about, these are still very young men. Gundy was ranting at the media, criticizing a young man. I have no way of knowing what's going on in their lives, but if I would have had Bradley's talent, I would have tried to find the best place to get me to the league. And if coach says it ain't working, what else is he to do? I don't think that we should be slamming these kids. Again, that's from Lindale Jeff. I have thoughts. Gus, would you like to go first here?
No, I'll let you have that. Yeah.
I think now more than ever, the they're just kids stuff doesn't really work, considering they're more employees now than ever before. Especially considering that, mm-hmm. odds are pretty good that if he entered the portal in the spring, as was reported today by Ben Golan of RedRaidersports.com, and then withdrew, there was probably some kind of, I would bet, I don't know this is an I think, not an I know, but I would sure think that there was some kind of added compensation to that too. So yeah, I mean, these aren't like student athletes that are just playing for the love of the game and maybe, a scholarship. And
not
then
anymore. Yeah.
And then additionally, we're not sitting here saying, oh, he's a terrible person and he owes a lot of, overdue book fines at the library and is a bad driver and has bad breath and is, a cheat and a tax. No, the production wasn't there. It wasn't. Like, anybody with eyeballs and a box score can show you that. And while quarterback injuries were a thing, and I think that we've done a very good job of acknowledging the possibility of, there's potentially some coaching stuff that goes into play here too. It's not just on the player, but some of it is on the player. Some of it is on Bradley for not catching those balls that were thrown to him and that seemed to be pretty on target.
Sure.
So some of it is on him for not living up to his potential and, being better than he was as a freshman. And I don't think that, we should kind of pull any of those punches just because he happens to be 19 years old or 20 years old. Because if he wants to go play for an SEC team, right, or some other Power 5 team, they're going to expect them to produce, right? It's not like, hey, so glad you're here. We just want you to get good grades, and find a degree plan that you're passionate about. And, if football success comes with it, then great. But we just really value it's about, hey, catch some damn touchdowns. And if he wants to go to the league, then it's even more about that. So we're not sitting here talking about middle school football. So, I appreciate Lindell Jeff's text, and I value their frequent contributions to our Yates Flooring Center chat line. But I just don't think that – I think we're way past the got to protect the young men because they're just playing for a scholarship aspect of this sport.
I don't have much to add, but I agree with that. My instincts, and as a 56-year-old, are to think the same thing because these – athletes, as I did it, I know what it's like to have a crappy year or whatever, but also to think about it like, well, they're the age of my kids, or actually my kids are a tick older than them, but still, so my instincts are there to do that. But to what you're saying, this thing's, this NIL and transfer portal, but especially NIL conversation, can't be separated from it in a way that's like, hey, we're going to pay you all this money and, hopefully you can do something good for us every once in a while. Like, no, especially not for a starter who may be getting extra magical NIL money.
Ooh, magical NIL.
Wow.
Yeah, that sounds really fun. Like, oh, what's that in your ear? Oh. More tech talk next. Hey, so glad you're here.
The podcast that finishes your workday in a very Red Raider way. This is the Tech Talk Podcast from Double T 97.3, presented by Cantex Roofing and Construction.
I'm fine with that. I can live with that. No issues. It's Tech Talk on Double T 97.3 and Double T 97.3.com with Gus and Clint. I'm Aaron. We're joining you today until 6 o'clock. We'd love to hear what you have to say on the Yates Flooring Center chat line at Double T 97.3.com. Someone has this on the chat line. Hold on now. Wazoo and Oregon State made an alliance with the Mountain West, so we could see a Pac-2/Mountain West championship game next season. I don't think they're going to hold a Pac-2 title game.
Well, no, they're just still going to call it Pac-12. That's why. Washington State, Oregon State fans, get your tickets now.
This from our friend Val, who asks, how about these questions? Has there ever been a study to see how 4- and 5-star recruits actually did in college? Also, the surprise Big 12 teams, Oklahoma State finished 2nd, Iowa State finished 4th, West Virginia finished 6th. What were their preseason rankings? In the preseason football poll, let's see. Oklahoma State was 7th. Iowa State was 10th, and West Virginia was 14th. Where the Big 12 media really missed the mark was, Texas Tech, unfortunately, TCU and Baylor. I think, and then probably Kansas too. I think for the most part, it was, and then West Virginia. I think the rest was pretty close. In terms of a study, there maybe has been. I don't know. I think that really all you need to know, or all the proof you need, is to kind of look at the recruiting rankings over the last, 10 years, and kind of look at that, and then look at college football playoff, right? And I think that for the most part, the people that are playing in those playoff games are also landing and stacking, top 15 recruiting classes on top of each other. TCU was a very clear exception, no doubt.
Last year.
Very much so. but I think everyone else is pretty much right up there. I think that there is this is maybe a different conversation, but I don't think that there's that much difference between, say, the 20th class and the 35th best class, right? On average. And I don't think that there's that much difference, or at least it's harder to rank the 300th best player versus the 600th,
some diminishing return
for
there.
For those type prospects. It's more about fit and intangibles than it is about, okay, well, this person runs the 40 in a 1/10 of a second faster,
And you've quoted some data that had to do with some NFL success, number of 3 stars, something like maybe like the NFL Pro Bowl team or an All Pro team, and those things happen a lot. And I guess we could call them studies, and I'm sure it would make a pretty interesting. There's probably a thesis or a dissertation floating around out there with this sort of stuff, looking for correlations and, more importantly, causality. But some things that can maybe get to be predictive, because here's the key: there's a buttload of money riding on it. I mean, if these were all just throwaway players, or if this was just throwaway stuff, not a lot riding on it. Okay, big deal. It becomes sort of what kind of esoteric or whatever, like who cares? But we're talking about no. These great players, a lot of money is spent on them getting them there. They then tend to succeed more than these average players over here, and that then allows us to sell more tickets and da-da-da. All of the resulting things that we can get into. But it's I can't believe there aren't multiple studies on that. Can't believe it. Whether it's a writer being investigative or whether it's something academic.
And I think it's also important to note that, the at least from a rival's perspective, and I think this is pretty standard across, if you want to call it an industry or a space, the star ratings, I think, are less about predicting college success and more about saying we think this person is a future NFL player, right? Like that's, and then like a 4-star is, a fringe NFL player, maybe a possible all-conference caliber, but it's not as much about, hey, this guy's going to be the leading passer or go undefeated or whatever. This on the chat line. Somebody says this: it's time to stop treating football players with kid gloves. They are paid athletes. That opens them up to criticism. Somebody says football is over. Let's talk baseball. Laughing emoji. You have a Sonny Gray segment in the can, I'm sure. We'll get to it.
Yes.
Baseball. Rachel says this: I don't get why anyone is surprised by Bradley entering the portal. He dropped half the balls he was thrown and was not a difference maker on the field. This on the chat line. I love watching the media, I guess that's us, give preferential treatment. Some people shouldn't be touched. Some athletes are bigger than the sport that they play, so much so that we should all pull for the same team. Why be fans if we're not going to confront the dark side of sports or avoid uncomfortable topics? Because thou shalt not rock the boat is the first commandment of sports fandom. I'm happy to rock the boat. I mean, I'm curious what you're getting at. What is your issue? What elicited that comment? This person says Florida State would not be Georgia, Bama, Texas, Oregon, Ohio State, or Washington. So the committee should keep them out if they're picking the best 4 teams.
And that's the aim, is to pick the best 4.
That's what they say is
I
aim.
know.
Yeah.
Because if it's the 4 most deserving, then it's a no-brainer, assuming they win tomorrow.
This particular committee is one of the worst. They have no backbone, and so far have done the bare minimum to not rock the boat, so I wouldn't be surprised if a 13-0 Florida State gets in.
I don't know I'm not necessarily comfortable with the way that's worded, as if it might take some serious nads for them to put the 13-0 team that just won the. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe that's a two sides to that argument, but I mean, as good as Bama's played recently, with Milroe finally playing well, like a QB rating in the 90s over the last 4 games, that one would be the one that's sort of ballsy, I would think.
I mean, if you're doing playoffs based on best teams, the Rangers would not have been one of the 4 teams selected for
the Phillies last year. Yeah.
More Tech Talk next.
The podcast put together with Red Raider fans in mind. This is the Tech Talk Podcast from Double T 97.3, presented by Cantex Roofing and Construction.
Hi there, how you going? It's Tech Talk on Double T 97.3 and Double T973.com with Gus and Clint. I'm Aaron. We're joining you today until 6. Love to hear your thoughts and comments on the Yates Flooring Center chat line at Double T973.com. Our friend El Jefe says, "Hey Gus and AD, I'm glad you're here." No, well, thank you.
Thank you.
Good to be here.
Yeah.
Are you also here to catch some touchdowns?
No, I'm just here to hopefully get good grades. Hopefully expectations for me are very, very low.
Hey Dickens, you're a pylon.
Yeah, I mean, basically, can I stand still? That's about the bar for me.
But also,
I would be great on like the trick play, where the slot receiver pretends to be dead.
It's like
he doesn't really do anything. Can I go out on that play?
Or it's the big people, little world, or big little people, big world thing. Like Dickens, you could just be the guy that stands there and lets the whole play unfold around him, and then
all right, Dickens. All right, so
he plods ahead.
I want you to run back to the 15-yard line and just do a plank.
Sit down.
Remember that planking? Just do planking.
Go be a pylon.
Would you be like, do I have to run to the 15 to do it? Can I do it where I start?
Just get there. Here, we'll put a cart on the sideline.
Cart.
You can drive yourself a la Marshawn Lynch.
I can just imagine the opposing sideline freaking out like, who is this guy? We don't have any scouting report on him.
Security. Don't worry, he runs a 9.740.
He runs a yes 40. This on the Yates Flooring Center chat line. Texas A&M has been a long-term case study on multi-star recruiting. True. That's from LH.
I don't know that you run around recruiting. Like if you tried to build your program around recruiting the next Wes Welker, or maybe even the next Zach Thomas, in terms of a profile. Like, let's go find all these undersized, step slow, gutsy guys. You get your Zach and your Welker that are, program icons, and then you lose a lot of games with all the other dudes that are like, you're out there going, man, we're not very athletic, are we? Or what? Actually, those two, you wouldn't say they're not athletic, but you get what I'm saying. Like, no, go get the bigger, faster, stronger deal.
I'll sign a class full of 5 stars. You go sign a class full of 3 stars, and we'll compare notes.
Let's play each other often.
Somebody has this: would Butler be in the middle of the pack in the Big 12?
As a receiver, his performance this year.
I mean like Butler basketball.
Oh! I was thinking Jerand Butler. I don't know. It's hard to say. Obviously, we played them at their place, and that was a fun matchup, and disappointing result. To have shot the ball as well as we did, but in the end, you gave up 100 points. I don't care if there wasn't overtime in there, and that's, I mean, it was one of the first things out of Coach McCaslin's mouth, I think, post game, dealing with just the caliber. Like, if we're going to play at this level of defense in the Big 12, it's not going to go well.
This on the chat line. The person who had the media criticism follows up. Media comment was not directed to you. It's directed the media at the whole. The LeBron betting on NBA game story has been out for 24 hours, and it's barely getting a mention by the gatekeepers. If this was about anybody but LeBron, talking heads would have dropped 1,000 Pete Rose comparisons already. I think that's a misread, honestly, because if you look at the talking head shows, right, not the sports centers, but like First Take or First Things First on Fox Sports or any of the shows like that, they play the hits more than anybody else.
Oh yeah,
right. Like we talked about this in earlier in November after the Rangers won. How so little airtime was dedicated to the Rangers winning the World Series on those shows, because that didn't generate as much eyeballs, engagement, clicks, comments, all those things as some other debate about the Cowboys or some recycled narrative about Russell Westbrook or LeBron James or stuff like Tom Brady, stuff like that.
Why can't the Dodgers get over the hump?
Yeah. So I think that if there is or was legs to LeBron betting on sports, I think that they would be all in on that, as much as sports media has been on Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift. Because LeBron James is one of the few athletes that exist in the sports space today, at least in America, who almost everyone has an opinion on. Mm-hmm. Right? He's not milquetoast. He's not a 40-degree day, as they described it in The Wire. Like, people either like him or they hate him.
And he spans from coast to coast, and really international, but certainly coast to coast for the target audience of that show. And it's also why the Yankees are going to get talked about more than the Minnesota Twins, and it's why the Cowboys are going to get talked about more than the another market, the Atlanta Falcons or whatever. I mean, it's just how it is. That one is an engagement thing through and through. Those shows like that are an engagement thing through and through. Play the hits is a great way to say it.
Like, we are very, very rarely given any kind of guidance or direction or instruction on what to talk about on this show. Especially when it comes to sports. But if Gus and I sat here over the last 2 months and spent more time talking about English Premier League soccer or esports versus Texas Tech football, right? We probably would have some emails from people in the building, right? Whose opinion matters a lot more than ours.
Yeah, I mean, I joked about the Cardinals pitching acquisition the other day, and I mean, like, we didn't even make it out of the first segment. Really, we're talking baseball? Like, it was a joke, man. It was like 45 seconds of comedy there. Hang on.
Yeah, I think too, there hasn't been any reporting that I've seen that links LeBron to actually betting.
Yeah,
and I don't think that Maverick Carter did anything illegal there either.
This has been the Tech Talk Podcast, presented by Cantex Roofing and Construction. Check out our library of Double T 97.3 podcasts at doublet97.3.com.